This one's interesting. Pending home sales fell over 10% in February as record low supply stifles the housing market. So we've been talking about this now for months. And one of the big reasons why we know that home sales will start to fall is because supply can't keep up. To recap, as I always kind of do when these supply stories came up, before the pandy in January of 2020, housing starts were up 13. And we were looking like that was going to be the year that a lot of the builders build. They had materials coming in, even after the China tariffs and all that stuff was happening. Their materials were starting to roll back in, and we were starting to get more supply, and land was being developed, and labor was available. And then the Rona hit. Right.
Yeah. The pandy.
All of that stopped for a while. There were bills that just kind of quit because they couldn't have anyone on site because they didn't know how quite to handle it when somebody got the Rona and what to do in the quarantine and all that stuff. And it's kind of been that way for a year. I think people have slowly started to get back to it. There's a lot of builders that are now building as fast as they can, but the materials prices are 200% higher. Lumber specifically is 200% higher than a year ago. And then metals have now gone up over 30% compared to a year ago too. So this is a different reason why supply is slowed, because just harder to build. New builds used to take 4 months. Now they're taking 6 months. Custom home builds used to take 5 to 6 months. Now they're taking 8 to 12 months. So this is a very different market that we're in. But let's read the article, see what they're saying. Lawrence Yoon, he's a chief economist for the National Association of Realtors. He said the demand for home purchase is widespread. Multiple offers are prevalent, and days on market are swift. He said, but contracts are not clicking due to record low inventory. There were just 1.03 million homes for sale at the end of February, a 29% drop compared with February 2020. And if you recall, I believe at the start of the year last year, it was 20% lower than the previous year. So it's low and low on low compared to year over year compared to the start of 2019. Low on low. Sales are now varying dramatically by price point because it's so lean on the low end and more plentiful on the higher end, which I would love to hear some of your thoughts. If you do work with luxury, Eureka, I'd love to hear some of your thoughts on what's happening in the high end, if it is as competitive as it is in the mid-range and low end, so we can get some firsthand feedback on that.
It's insane.
This is another quote from Lawrence Yoon. He said, potential buyers may have to enlarge their geographic search areas given their current tight market. If there were a larger pool of inventory to select from, ideally 5 or 6 months supply, then more buyers would be able to purchase properties at an affordable price. So currently, let's see, do they get into the months of supply here? I don't think they tell us the months of supply in this article. They just say that it's been going down. Sales in the South declined. In the West, they fell. Basically, sales are falling everywhere because we need more houses.
I mean, it was still, what was it nationally when last time we covered it? It's been a little while, but it was like a month and a half nationally.
Yeah. I don't know what the current supply is nationally. I know here locally, in some markets, it's about a month, but we also kind of did a test and we tested several neighborhoods that our minds would tell us, oh, everyone wants to live in this neighborhood. So we did a test run on some data in those neighborhoods and found out that there's like actually a 2.5, 3 month supply in that neighborhood. So although I would challenge agents to do that, although in your minds you think, man, everything's going in 2 seconds, it's a crazy market, run the data on various neighborhoods and areas in your city and various parts of your city to see what's actually happening there, to see if you're not just thinking the most popular houses that come on because all your buyers want that 1 or 2 houses. See what the other houses are, the ones that are not so cute.
And by the way, there's also some that are just as cute, but the marketing didn't get out there or wasn't priced right or something. That's how I've been flipping my searches for my buyers. Is I'm taking a totally different approach for just to find them houses that aren't getting as much traction. Now, I can't really prove why they're getting less traction, but it happens. There are those homes and they're going to get less showings or no offers. And all of a sudden, and I know this is crazy to say, but it's 12 days on market. You're like, what's wrong with that house? You know, so I literally just sent my LA buyers, Los Angeles, not Lower Arkansas buyers, a new list. Yeah, no, it's okay. A new list that kind of, you know, comes from that type of start. I'm just trying to be creative to get them into something a little different way. And by the way, we have 61 just in my city, in Rancho Cucamonga, 61 active single family listings. 61.
That's crazy.
I think that's about a third of a month right now, maybe half.
Wow.
That's
Michelle
insane.
West. She said new construction keeps increasing their pricing, driving resales prices up and pushing many buyers out. No more days on market. It's hours on market. I did share that with some clients the other night. I said, 2 years ago, our days on market were 30 and the market was at 90. And now our days on market are 3 hours. and the market's just a day or two. Melissa Mara said it's just a competitive in the luxury market there. Inventory is even worse. Debbie Rice Miller, she said luxury is equally as competitive depending on your location in major cities. People are leaving these for lifestyle because they can work from home. Well, that's interesting. That's an interesting perspective too. Matthew Clinton, he says he bought his home for 120. He'd sell for $6 million. Thanks, Matt. That's a good return. Okay, so I want to go to Yuriko. She does work the luxury market, and I want to bring her up from Clubhouse and hear what she has to say about what is the luxury market like, Yuriko? Is it like 1 to 2 month supply? Is it a 6 month supply? What are you seeing?
Hey there. Hey, Ray. So in our market, I feel like luxury is all relative because in our market, I think when you're talking about luxury, you're probably talking about like $4 or $5 million properties versus maybe in other markets, luxury would be over $1 million. But in our market, what we're seeing is luxury is definitely moving at a very fast pace. It was moving probably in the fastest pace that I've seen it in the last 17 years of being in the business. And part of that, though, right now in our area, our real estate moves lockstep with the stock market. So especially I'm located in the South Bay in the Bay Area, which is like Saratoga, Los Gatos, San Jose, that kind of area. And our prices here are like over 90% correlated with Apple stock. So as Apple stock goes up, so do our home prices and vice versa. And something that's interesting about that, in terms of when you talk about stock prices and how they affect our luxury market, is that we have a lot of like big name companies that a lot of people would know. So like maybe you know about like Netflix or you know about some of these different companies, but those companies actually don't affect us as much because the actual employment isn't as high. Whereas Apple is a huge employer in our area, which is why it affects our stock price, our housing prices so much vis-a-vis the stock prices. And then as you move further up, what we call the peninsula here, and you get to Google and Facebook, those will have, heavier impacts on their market. And it's all based upon the employment, right? How many people those guys employ. So that's what I would say about luxury in our market. And I think it's really interesting here on this Clubhouse. I know you commented on it, right? We never introduce ourselves as luxury agents because for us, a house is a house at all these different price points. So anyways, I'm not sure if that's what you were getting at, but we're definitely seeing a lot of movement in the higher end prices in our area.
Yeah, I think those are great points because, sorry, go ahead.
So I just want to ask you a clarifying question. And when you say a lot of movement, there's talk because Dan lives in LA and has witnessed the mass exodus from Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. He's also talked against it and said, no, that's not actually happening. Are you seeing a lot of people leaving for the second home markets because they can quote unquote work from anywhere now, Yuriko?
Absolutely. But I will say it's dialing back. So I feel like earlier on, it was even more prevalent when companies like Adobe were telling their clients, like I have a client that works for Adobe, you only have to come in 1 day a week. Those clients were willing to look like an hour and a half away for a home because he would only have to make that commute 1 day a week. Or we had like Facebook telling their clients, not their clients, their employees, you can work wherever you want in the country and you don't have, or anywhere in the world, and you don't have to tell us until next year for tax purposes. So in the initial part of the, Rona episode, we saw a lot of people moving further and further out, but now in our area, you can see a market difference in traffic and the way just normal behavior has picked back up again. And those same buyers who were willing to go further out are now kind of looking again at staying back in. As the traffic changes, it also changes what people in their mind are kind of willing to endure. But that being said, some of those ancillary markets, like we have like the Silicon Valley on one end, and we have what's called like the East Bay, and that is typically like more traffic further away. And the further north you get, those markets have been even, you know, crazier than our local Bay Area. So if it's kind of within the range of, you know, good driving distance, those markets have been, you know, even crazier than our local Bay Area market.
That's cool. Well, thanks for sharing the additional info, Eureka, because I was kind of wondering that and what's happening. Dan, what were you going to say earlier?
Well, just I think, first of all, I love her distinction between, she's like, I'm just an agent. I'm not luxury. It always is interesting to me when someone puts luxury. Now, I think there's one person we all know, and he's been on the show, but Christoph Chu. I think he can put luxury on there. Yep. And then that's kind of the dude that can do that. You know, there may be a few more, but you know, for us, a house is a house. And I just love that she made that distinction and made it so clear, you know, but I wanted to say, so, and I don't even know, because my clients are under 2 million. So I'm going to guess that, you know, she kind of said it like, I don't know what luxury is anymore. She kind of put the $5 million number on it, but you know, in some areas it is, because it used to be above 700-800, but now with houses, what I think I read an article, they're 11.9% higher than a year ago. Now I think you have to adjust what luxury is, you know, which is now I think it is up over 1 million, 1.1. And then I'm seeing a difference between what happens in under 1.5 and then over 1.5. So under 1.5, buyers are willing to just kind of go whatever. They'll go 150, 200 grand over and cover the difference, hoping that they'll get that 10% back later. But 1.5, then things slow down a little bit. So I think it's really interesting to see that. I don't know if I'm truly working in luxury at the moment. You know, I think it's just a higher end. I don't know. They have like upper middle class. This is upper mid-range market, I guess. I don't know.
So we did have one other person. Deborah, did you join to talk about the luxury market?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. What are you seeing in the luxury market?
Well, I had the privilege of selling a high net worth vacation club to billionaires at my prior job before I got into real estate. And I would have to say that was luxury, right?
That's luxury. But, yeah.
Now I'm in Sacramento, and I'm the feeder market in the U.S., not in the U.S., but in the state of California for Eureka's market, because most of my clients come up from Santa Clara County with exactly what she's saying, which is this concept of, they told us we don't have to come in anymore. We got stock options. We can pay cash for these houses. And luxury up here is, you know, the houses I sell here are the cheapest I've ever sold, because I sold in the Bay Area before that. So you have to recognize what's going on my end, which is I just lost a very large deal because Salesforce.com decided maybe they wanted to rethink that policy. And they've told all their engineers now they have to come in 3 days a week instead of 0. And so people are dropping out up here because the companies are now starting to rethink that. So we've got a ebb and flow going on here where our luxury, if you will, buyers are pulling back because they actually don't know what's going to happen. And I don't think the Mark Benioffs or Larry's busy in Lanai, but you know, I came out of the tech world. I worked for Oracle for a long time in startups, and we bought all of our houses with cash. We just cashed in some stock options, and that's what these guys are doing. And now we're at this precipice where the companies really probably don't need sales to come in, but they certainly need operations and engineering to be able to collaborate together. It is going to affect feeder markets like Austin and Sacramento and other areas where people have migrated away from their offices. And even though Oracle and Tesla and Box and all of those companies moved their headquarters for tax reasons to Austin, they left everyone here except for, you know, executive management. So we were really excited. We really were on a roll. And I think it's just changed.
Very interesting. Well, thanks for the ad. That's really, we've been talking about this for a little while. As soon as those companies started saying you can work from anywhere, and it's neat to hear what Eureka says. That's starting to slow down. I've heard a couple of other people that are in the feeder market saying that it's slowing down a little bit. People that are in Portland and that type of thing. So that brings us to our next question, Deborah and Eureka, which you guys so eloquently transitioned us into.